Hey out there, this is October 12th, 2018. It's a Friday here in Northern California, and it's just about 5 minutes before 9 in the morning. Today I'm going to get into a lot of stuff as usual. I kind of wanted the theme to be extricating ourselves from the maws of evildoers and what that's going to entail. I want to talk about progress relative to economic principles, in particular capitalism, something you don't hear from mainstream media, whom are supposed to be the cutting edge educators, in my opinion. But of course, as we all know, there's a lot of special interest groups that are paying the salaries of the people working for the mainstream media. And we all heard about this limousine accident in New York recently, where 18 people, that's including the driver, were all killed in this accident. It wasn't even a head-on wreck. And there hasn't been one inference to the possibility that this could have been exhaust related, carbon monoxide related. And that was one of the first things that I came up with, because I've never heard of anything this outrageous. I mean, right here locally, about 20 miles from where I am, in the town of Orland, off Interstate 5, that's a main vein through the state of California, north-south vein. We had a head-on wreck. A semi-truck went across the center divider, full speed, into a bus. And as I recall, less people were killed in that head-on wreck. And of course, people aren't seatbelted in on these buses in that instance than in this instance with the limousine going into the brush, into the trees, hitting two pedestrians on its way. So, you know, you wonder why. Well, we all know at Ford, it came out that there was a recall. The police were getting these particular Ford trucks, SUVs, whatever, and they were leaking carbon monoxide, and they found out about it. It was discovered. Of course, they kept it kind of low profile, and they don't want to talk about it. So what the point is here is that we know that there's these special interest groups, and of course Ford Motor Company is a special interest group, that pay the salaries of these executives in these mainstream media companies. You know, your ABC, your CBS, your NBC, your Fox, on and on, right? So we know who's footing the tab. It's the advertisers, right? And we know who's steering the ship is behind the scenes, the grand puppeteers. We're talking about the Bilderberger Group and these elitist type, these hypocrites at the very top. So it's, you know, it is not being unduly cynical to say that there's a whole hell of a lot going on in our society, okay, a lot more than we're being exposed to. You see, we've slowly, gradually been trained to accept nonsense. And when it comes to this term capitalism, that's a prime example of what I'm talking about here. I want to conflate spiritual principles with economic principles. And that's a lot of what I do, is just try to help people to understand the truth from the lies, because it's gotten exceedingly difficult to differentiate and deduce one from the other. And the reason is because, like frogs in a pot of water, we've been boiled very slowly. So we've all been mind-effed to the nth degree, but very stealthily, very sneakily, very cunningly, very deceptively, very diabolically. This has happened, but it's true. And so I'm not a nut, okay? You could give me a psychological exam and you'd find out I'm not crazy, okay? But it sounds radical. The stuff I talk about sounds radical. For example, we haven't had true capitalism, and it's very important to understand true, okay? It's very, I paraphrase that with true capitalism versus crony capitalism, because crony capitalism is all we've known. So people, they think they understand capitalism. They hate capitalism, because they hate injustice. But they don't realize that what they really hate is crony capitalism, which creates a wealth and income disparity. It doesn't share the wealth that's being created by the people of the nation, because that's who creates wealth. We could say, oh no, but it's the capital that was poured into it. Listen, capital has been pulled out of thin air for a long, 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 long time. No, like Adam Smith writes in his book, The Wealth of Nations, spells it out unambiguously, unequivocally. He states, look, it's a willing workforce. And we know we've had a willing workforce in America for a very, very, very long time. That's all you really need to be productive, to create this gross domestic product you hear bandied about. So it's crucial that people understand the difference, okay, because it's monumental. It really is, and yet people think they understand economics. They think they understand capitalism. They think they understand supply and demand, and supply and demand has been literally turned on its head by crony capitalism. Do you understand? When it comes to progress regarding supply and demand, you need to just ask yourself a very simple question. And a child, literally children, can understand these things I talk about. And that's how simple I like to keep it. Because I don't like anybody to come in and think they can refute the things I teach and preach. Okay, because you can't. You simply cannot. Okay, true capitalism based on supply and demand, which it should be, of course. Supply and demand, of course. Okay, supply and demand means that, look, if it's difficult to produce something and therefore you can produce a very limited amount of that thing, then prices are high, but that's only temporarily that you pay more for something. But when the demand is there, the public wants it, okay, it's inevitable there's going to be competition when people say, wow, you're getting how much for that commodity, that item? Okay, for your labors in regard to that thing. And so the competition opens up. That's part of capitalism. There's risk. If everybody's building the same widget, for example, okay, and you're out there making tons of money, and some guy comes along and he's able to do it cheaper, then you're going to have to either lower your price or you're going to go out of business. Do you understand? That's the risk that you face under true capitalism. So things get cheaper. That's progress. It's a very natural offshoot. And as a result, okay, your currency goes up in worth, just like a scale. They're attached at the hip. The worth of your currency and the cost for the commodities and services that you have to pay for. Do you understand? So as we've found easy and easier methods to produce, mainly, most importantly, the things we absolutely need that we can't get away from, okay? Food, shelter, energy needs, and of course water. We need potable water, safe drinking water. As a result of finding those easy and easier methods, and I say we, that's a civilized society I'm talking about, okay? That's a species, the species of humanity. That's the same race. We're like a family. That's the only way we're supposed to look at this thing, is that we are all blood related. We all have relatives in common. You can trace it all back a very, very long way. I know at some point it gets pretty tough, but nevertheless, the point is clear, is that we come from the same stock, basically. Okay, so by not caring about the welfare of our fellow human beings, we're literally not caring about ourselves, about our own relatives. Okay, that's what it comes down to. So once you establish the fact that you really give a damn, you really care, that you love your fellow human being and you want the best for everybody, not just yourself, you understand the inextricable interconnectivity between my welfare and your welfare. And I, on the other hand, understand the inextricable interconnectivity of my welfare when it comes to your welfare. And so we start seeing things in common the way we're supposed to, the way it's really kind of goes without saying. It's a no-brainer. It's axiomatic. Of course, yes, that makes sense. A child can understand that if something's troubling you, that inevitably it's going to trouble me. And you could say, well, it's just not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. It doesn't matter. Do you understand? You're going to get it through osmosis. It's vibrations in the air. If I'm psychologically intimidated, if I'm in fear, for example. If I'm living in financial insecurity, I'm living in financial fear. If I'm in financial bondage, okay, I'm not free. And you're going to know about it, okay? You're going to know by my spirit, by my attitude, you're going to know that things just aren't right. You're going to pick up those vibrations through osmosis, okay, metaphorical osmosis. You're going to get your share of suffering. So it's very important that people fundamentally understand that our welfares are intertwined, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it except look after my welfare. And I've got to look after his welfare and her welfare. We've all got to look after each other's welfare. Okay? Have we done that? Look all through history. All through history. I don't ever remember reading in history, either ancient history, mid-level history, or recent history, whereby humanity has ever lived like one big, fat, happy family, or even tried really, or even understood the necessity, the imperative nature to ever find any semblance of true happiness. We have to give a crap about each other. It's that simple. And if we don't, you're never going to find it. You could find pseudo happiness. Yeah, you could find, well, I've got financial freedom. I'm loaded, man. I've got financial security. I'm not in financial fear. Do what I did. Everybody will tell you, these people. So many people that think they can divorce themselves. They're living an unreality. Their own personal reality isn't one that'll hold water when someday they're called to account, to give account for their belief system, when they're called to stand before their owner. And it's nothing but sheer arrogance if people don't acknowledge the fact that they are owned. Okay? And in your right mind, you'd welcome the conviction, the correction that comes with being told right from wrong from the one that owns you, that gave you a brain to think with. Okay, you think you're so great and wonderful because you're prosperous and you're successful? Just remember who gave you the ability, the wherewithal to do that thing. And always acknowledge that, whatever that is, that higher power. Okay, you didn't create yourself. I didn't create yourself. None of us created ourselves. Anybody, a scientist will tell you that. Anybody can tell you that. Okay, and your parents know very little about the mystery of life. They know that they had relations that came instinctively, that desire by both men and women. They had this desire to mate with each other. Okay, and what is the result of that? You are. I am. Okay, it's a mystery to most people. Well, science will say, no, we understand. It's the sperm and the egg and then the embryo and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, you can explain what happens scientifically, but nevertheless, it's a big fat mystery. I mean, is it that simple to create an automobile? Does an automobile company just say, well, let's, put this one ingredient together with the other ingredient, and it'll create this embryo car that's just going to grow up and be this bright, shiny new Cadillac or whatever? Okay? It's like, that's a pipe dream for automakers. Wouldn't they love it if it was that simple? And then they didn't have to tell the public, because if the public got wind of it was that easy, then we say, well, we're not paying, $20,000-$30,000 for a new car. We'll give you a couple $100. I mean, it was that easy? Gee whiz. I'll do it myself if you don't want to do it, right? We'll just get the two ingredients. No, it's a mystery. We're a mystery. We're a miracle. The scriptures say that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay, it's awesome. We're awesome critters with unlimited potential. And we should acknowledge the one that gave us life. Okay, that is God Almighty, above all else. It's so important. The most imperative thing we can do is understand that if we realize changes, actualize changes on this earth, it's going to be at the hand of God. It's because God is finally forcing his hand. He's not only going to just let things unfold the way he wants them to on earth, he's going to have to force it, because the evildoers in charge, and they are still in charge. Okay, we could talk about Trump and, the EU and the World Bank and the Federal Reserve and all that. But listen, it's evil doers are the grand puppeteers. They're the ones that are pulling the strings on all of us. They're in charge. They were in charge when Jesus walked the earth some 2,000 years ago. They were in charge for thousands of years before that. And it's all about money. This is how they maintain control. So if there's a devil, if there's this Satan as a metaphor, as an allegory, remember what it thrives on, okay? How it keeps us under its control is through the money. Do you understand how this all ties together with spiritual principles, the economic teachings, and the preaching I do? And it's so imperative that people understand that what is the root of all evil? It's this love of